My Grandma Dod was born the third child of 5 to Hugh and Edith Limmer on the 30th of August 1928. Dorothy Edith Limmer grew up in rural Taranaki, attending Cardiff School. She was known by her close friends as Dot and by her family as Dod. Grandma's mum was bedridden most of her life and died when she was 16. This ended any religious beliefs Grandma may have had. She always told me she could not believe in a God that left 5 children without a mother. These beliefs were certainly against the norm in mid-20th century New Zealand, and I admire her for sticking to them. Although Grandma was only 5'4", as she entered her late teens she was admired near and far for her long, shapely legs. Perhaps this is what first attracted Gordon, her future husband, to her. A couple of months pregnant, Grandma married Gordon Leslie Treweek. Although this was a union that spanned 3 decades, it wouldn't last. They were in the middle of a separation when Gordy drowned while diving one day. Grandma always spoke fondly to me about Gordy. It was my dad who told me the marriage wasn't a happy one, and Gordy spent most of his time living at sea. They had 2 children, Gail and Evan, my father. Grandma didn't think she was a very good mum to her little girl Gail, being young and inexperienced. By the time my dad arrived 7 years later, she told me she was much more confident. I know from the moment he was born she was devoted to him, and she remained this way the rest of her life. Grandma also had a baby after my Auntie Gail and before my dad. He died at a few days old. Although this is something Grandma never really talked about, I think it was a huge event in her life that she probably never really got over. She never got to see the baby, later telling me he was born deformed and rushed to Waikato Hospital by her husband. Grandma was very close to her siblings, especially her sisters. When I knew Grandma, she would see her older sister Eunice at least once a day. However, it was her younger sister Jill that she was most fond of. They would talk on the phone once a week without fail, and I remember those conversations that would go on and were filled with laughter. They were a lot alike, Grandma and Jill, sharing not only looks but also their sense of humour. Grandma loved the beach and retired in Thames. She would take her grandchildren down to the coast whenever she could. I remember many holidays where Grandma would pack her polystyrene chili bin with buns and ham and juice, taking me down to Te Puru Beach with the big black swimming tyre so I could play in the waves. We would always collect mussels when we could, and Grandma encouraged crab hunting in the rocks. If we weren't at the beach, we would be at the swimming pool, where Grandma would again sit and watch me for hours until I had worn myself out. Or she would take me to the library, encouraging my love of books. We would both spend a great deal of time reading on my holidays. Grandma also spent many hours teaching me all she knew about the royal family, and it is something I still follow. Although I don't know if it's for me or if it's for her, she was a big presence in my life. Grandma's house was hit hard by the floods in 1985, and from then on, every time there was a weather warning, we would pick everything up off the floor and pin the bottoms of the sofa and curtains up, but she never lost everything again like that first time. My grandma was a very non-judgmental person, and this was evident in the way she treated her 6 grandchildren. It didn't matter if we were at university or on the dole, or if we were a hard-working parent or had our children taken off us. Grandma welcomed each and every one of us with open arms no matter what we did. She fussed over us but didn't like to be fussed over herself. I can remember a few incidents at school when I first got my learner license. I would make the 2-hour return trip up to Thames to spend the day with Grandma to avoid whatever was happening, nervously hoping the whole way that I didn't get pulled up or found out. She would always be there and didn't dwell on anything, always making me feel better regardless of what I had done. I guess that's why I went there, and as far as I know, she never revealed where I had been all day. Grandma's passing has left a huge hole in my heart. I not only loved her as my Grandma Dod, I also liked her as a person. If I was 60 years older, I know we would have been great friends. Those people that came into Grandma's life seemed to stay there forever. She had so many trials and hardships. I'm sure all of those things shaped her into the person I knew. If I hope to have learned anything from Grandma, it is her acceptance of people, especially her family. I have given my daughter the middle name Dot in memory of Grandma. I think she would have been quite chuffed.